Feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
GrokTALK.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Flashback.
We will have to talk to the proprietor of the office space and go, which hole do we use?
Yeah, I hate it when you have to say that.
We should go back, I think, so talking of college, to the scheme whereby not only do the parents help their kids, but there are no government subsidies, and let the colleges compete for the best kids by offering scholarships to those that are the best kids.
That's crazy talk.
There's Steve, always with the smart remark.
That'd work, too. That's why they won't do it. It'll work. You know, at their core. I mean, society can scope.
Right, so about 3 squirrels ago.
GraniteGrok.com is a product of GraniteGrok.com. GrokTALK is a product of GraniteGrok.com.
I just love this idea of how they're going to go to a bourbon festival or several bourbon festivals in Kentucky, because that's where the young people go. So first we'll get them drunk, and then we'll hook them onto Obamacare. What a country!
As the old Russian poet Pushkin said, where there is a trough, there will be pigs.
I tell you what, you guys have a great sense of humor. I mean, no matter how much ribbon I do, even that airbrush Marine you have there, he no matter how much ribbon I give you guys always come back for more, and you're always polite. And, you know, I go to the liberal websites where I have a lot of fun haranguing them, and they really get their panties in a wad. And I'm always getting kicked off, and I have to make a new name, and it's brutal.
Yeah,
and they're wrong.
Yeah, it's almost like saying their crap don't stink.
I was about to say the same thing. Their poop don't stink, but you know.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Here on GrokTALK, we have crap, we have poop, we have monster trucks. Okay. We have come pretty close to the end of this segment.
Good.
Things are deteriorating.
GrokTALK.
GrokTALK comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
The 603 Alliance held its second training seminar on Tuesday, August 11, 2015 at St. Anselm's Institute of Politics, and despite the heavy storms throughout the area, the turnout was fantastic. After introductions and a brief overview of who the 603 Alliance and CVL New Hampshire LLC are, the training focused on the first in the state 603 Grassroots Presidential Caucus to be held on Saturday, October 17, 2015 at the Hopkinton Fairgrounds. Procedures for the caucus were discussed, and a call to action for volunteers to help on event day was met with great enthusiasm. Almost everyone volunteered to help, and thanks to our wonderful friends from Massachusetts who have offered their assistance as caucus marshals. If you could not make the training seminar this week but would like to volunteer your time, please download the GPS Caucus sign-up form available at 603alliance.org. There are instructions on the site for where to send the form.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
Hey, welcome back. Everything's working this week. Everything's working so good. We have guests. We have everything. It's pretty all kinds of awesome. So thanks for tuning in. This is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy and Mike Rogers. Our guests today include our monthly Ed segment with Jorge Mesa Tejada. We're going to talk about some doings in Sandown and Danville. We could call it Sandville. And RSA 21J. We're going to have Rick Olson back. We're going to talk about the NRA stickers and hoplophobes issue. We heard a little bit about that.
That was a great post.
Don't even hear you for some reason. Why is that? There we go. How's that?
Yeah, that was great. And the guy who he was commenting on took down his post.
Did he?
Yes.
We also have Max Abramson. Max is coming in. We haven't talked to him in a while. He is preparing some material for the for veto override day for HB 603, which is, I believe, parental opt-outs for testing.
It's all about parental notification.
Correct. Okay, parental notification.
Parental responsibility is better put.
All right, Kimberly Morin's at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, at an economic summit. We're going to have her call in, and we'll talk to her. And we might just also talk to Stella Morbido, who's a senior writer at the Federalist, and recently put up an excellent piece that we'll get to shortly. We don't know. We had a tight schedule with her. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to squeeze her in. She said, you know what, give me the number. If I can call you, I'll call you. And that'll be later on in the show. But until
so we get
then,
to watch Ed Lasky, our flasher.
Ed will be flashing perhaps sometime right after 10:30. So, but we're going to call Kimberly and get an update from Jackson Hole, and then we're going to leave her on the line. She's going to join us in the conversation if Stella has a chance to call.
Yippee!
Yay! So great week. Don't forget, if you want to listen to this or past programs, you can do so on Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, and iTunes. We are also on YouTube, Ustream, and now on the rocknhcr.com, supposedly streaming right now, and rebroadcast at 7 p.m. on Monday night. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and we encourage you to do so.
We're
and
everywhere.
And I'm working on another one. So, and I also wanted to let you know that hopefully within a couple of weeks I'll have had my my Shiite together, and I'll be able to do a news read in the first segment, the first 5 minutes, because I have to do that because some of these radio stations have to do news. So in order for them to do their news, they do their news over our feed, and then they pick us up at 5 after. So I have to fill 5 minutes, and right now we're just kind of throwing some junk out there to fill the 5 minutes, but I want to do a news read, and maybe we'll all do a news read. Maybe we'll all bring in a story, and we'll just read stuff for the first 5 minutes and blah, blah, blah.
But I have a question for you. If you're saying you're trying to get your Shiite together, does that mean we're going to be broadcast live from a mosque?
We might. I don't know if they'll let us.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe if we take some pamphlets, they'll let us.
But what are we going to do about our commenter, Chris P. Bacon? We'd have to leave him outside.
Yeah, they won't like that bacon thing. So
No
bacon. Anyway,
No.
We have a few minutes before we call Jorge at quarter after. It is 9:08 a.m. Eastern, 9:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we have about 5 minutes. And you had made some suggestions for the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot of the week.
I did. You know, one of the, and it all comes back to our wonderful, magnificent 3-letter agency at the federal level called the EPA. They struck twice. Let's do the macro and then a more micro version of it. The macro level is that they had tried under the Clean Water Act, as all bureaucracies, especially under Obama, have tried to do, is to expand their reach and expand their authority, which means that you lose your freedom and they're more intrusive. They were supposed to, I can switch that. Yeah. Oh, you're
still
waving to Jane.
I'm waving at Jane.
Oh,
No, I'm
okay.
not just waving at the camera.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Jane.
So anyways, they're supposed to have these puddles supposedly on your yard. You know, if you get, on my yard, I'm on a hill. water from the mountaintop
Like
kind
it
of
rains and
runs
junk
down
and-
through,
Yep.
and it goes through this little bit of a swale in my backyard. Well, according to the EPA, I can't touch that anymore unless I get their permission, and I have to have an engineer come in, and I have to pay their fees, and then I have to have the inspectors and everything else. And in effect, the EPA is federalizing my land. It's no longer my personal property.
So
quick
13 before the puddle forms,
Yeah.
you can dig yourself a drainage trench and fill it with gravel.
Can't do it. Not anymore, because there was a lawsuit. 13 states. Supreme Court said that's right. I mean, a lower court said we're putting a stay on this. Well, the EPA said and decided to take, instead of using this as a national decision, they're being obstinate. They're stonewalling. They're saying, well, that just means that it's only for these 13 states that sued that we can't do it. We're going to do it everywhere else in the nation.
And, of course, Democrat New Hampshire didn't join the suit.
No, it did not.
Sorry, Democrat chaired New Hampshire.
Yeah, so if you get even a puddle, a drainage ditch that you might see full of water on a once-in-a-100-year storm, the EPA is going to be living in your house, and you won't even know it. Now, going to the micro. There's a guy out in Wyoming, owns a big farm. He decided, this is my property, I pay the taxes, I pay the mortgage, I run a farm. He wanted to build a holding pond, which he did. He followed all the rules for Wyoming and the locals, did everything that he was supposed to, and then, having gotten all of those blessings, the EPA came along and said, you have to remove that. We don't care what the state says. We don't care what the locals say. And we're going to charge you
$37,000,000, yes.
No, $37,000 a day until you get this. So now the amount's up to $16 million. And the guy is finally saying, where are we in the United States where it's my private property? I put in a holding tank or pond for my farm, and the federal government says I can't do that? Whatever happened to and these are my words, whatever happened to one of the things that drove the American Revolution? One was the rule of law. Everyone was equal to the law. And in the Declaration, the pursuit of happiness was originally the pursuit of property. And in the New Hampshire Constitution, it is the property that is...
Get used to this. Hello? Yeah, we're from the EPA. You left a Frisbee in your yard. There's water in it.
Almost. But then the local health officials might say, get rid of that because it's a breeding ground for mosquitoes. So,
They could fight with the EPA.
Yeah. So anyways, this is the second big level court fest that's going to go on, because there was another case earlier where the EPA said, you can't appeal to the court systems. You can only appeal to us because we told you have to fill in this grassland just because you built a house there. They had to spend over $1 million to sue the EPA to be able to win in court, to be able to get the decision that, yes, I can sue the EPA in court. This is what happens when you get the administrative state, when you get an agency and unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats that believe they can rule your life. I mean, we're no better than subjects under King George.
You have to post signs that say this is a federal agent-free zone. The state of New Hampshire is a sovereign state. This is my property, and trespassers will be repelled with whichever force necessary.
All right, we're going to call Jorge. You guys hang on for a few minutes, listen to some interesting music, ads, and promos, and we'll be right back with Mr. Mesa Tejada. Stay tuned.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime, on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Trying to get Jorge on the line. Working on it. I'll read this while I'm waiting. Shane dropped it off. Planned Parenthood requesting additional funding. Planned Parenthood has submitted an August 5th Executive Council request for 16% funding from the taxpayers of New Hampshire. What makes this financial request even worse is this New Hampshire funding is going toward Vermont officials' salaries. This request includes funding a Planned Parenthood New England's grant writer, as well as a medical director at a salary of $208,000. Is it time for Planned Parenthood to take its hands out of the New Hampshire taxpayer's pocket? I'd say it is. It is interesting to note that while Planned Parenthood may be limiting hours because of the New Hampshire Executive Council's recent vote to decline further New Hampshire taxpayer funding, their 2014 audit and 2014 990 tell a very interesting tale. These audits show Planned Parenthood is spending $1 million on fundraising and $1.5 million on public policy influencing. Planned Parenthood, I got it, I'm reading. What? That's not it. What are you doing? Stop it. Get away from my board. Damn it. Hey, Jorge. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Skip is messing with my board. No, we had donations to pay for this board. You know, there's my board stuff. Listen, don't touch any buttons unless you're sitting in this chair.
Don't touch his junk.
Don't touch my junk. I gotta find out where. Hi, Jorge. How you doing?
I am fine, thank you.
We're having a little spat. Don't worry.
I know. I keep getting problems trying to get you calling here too. I don't know why.
Okay. So anyway, we wanted to talk about what did I write down? Sandown and Danville, Timberlane.
Yeah.
And then RSA 21J.
21J. Okay. The first one, the Sandown and Danville issue, was a suit that the selectmen of two towns asked for a restraining order from the court to stop Timberlane from using the Sandown Central School for special education center after town meeting or the annual meeting decided to remove funding for those schools. What happened was our illustrious superintendent, Errol Metzler, decided that, yeah, that's true. No is no, and no, the Sandown Central cannot be reopened because, people said no. But if you change the name, then you can do it. So
I can't believe
it's not called Sandown Central anymore. We're going to open it. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be a special education center. Okay, that was the basis as to what happened. So the selectmen said, hold it a minute, Sandown and Danville. They figure, now, this are the towns. Keep that in mind. Since we provide the money, we don't want to furnish. We want to withhold that money until the court tells us that we have to do it. There is a problem. That suit never got to first base. The judge dismissed it on the opening sentence, like he should, because the towns, as corporate entities, have no standing before the school board, another school district, another corporate entity. The only ones who have standing to sue the school district are the members of the legislative body, namely the voters, not the selectmen as officials.
That's interesting.
And that's what I wanted to point out to everyone, because it's a very common situation. The school board, the school district, and the town are two separate political corporations. The town is a political corporation under RSA 31:1. Every town is a body, corporate and politic, and by its corporate name may be sue and be sued, prosecute and defend in any court or elsewhere. Okay, and they are the ones who can they are the only ones who can tax and collect revenue. Okay, the school boards, the school districts vote the annual budget and then send that to the selectmen to collect. The school district cannot collect money. They don't have taxing authority, okay? And specifically, the town is authorized by 31-4 may, at any legal meeting, grant and vote such sums of money as they judge necessary for any purpose for which a municipality may act, if such appropriation is not prohibited by the laws or constitution of the state. Okay? The district is also a corporation, 194:2. Each town shall constitute a single district for school purposes, 194.2. All districts legally organized shall be corporations with power to sue and be sued, to hold and dispose of real and personal property for the use of the schools therein, and to make necessary contracts in relation thereto. Almost the same language as the towns. So that's what here you have the big difference between the two. But now you got to 194.7, assessment. The selectmen shall annually assess upon the rateable state of the district a sum equal to the amounts determined by the district, and shall pay over the same to the district treasurer. If they fail, they are guilty, and they can be fined. The selectmen have no recourse but to tax, collect the money, and send it over to the school district. So the point that I'm trying to make is a very common mistake of people, taxpayers, to think that the town can sue the school district and the school district can sue the town, for actions totally not under their purview. That's why the judge dismissed the situation, regardless of the merit of the petition.
Do you know if any taxpayers are planning to sue?
They ask for at this point, what they ask is for reconsideration. So we're there now, because the judge said he would welcome any articles or briefs if they felt that he had made or misinterpreted any of the shall I say articles or arguments that had been presented. So that's where we are right now. So right now the answer is no. You cannot do it. You have no standing.
Hey, Jorge.
Yep.
This is Skip, and thanks for coming on the show. Just listening to what the Earl of Metzler has done in the past, this is more of a case of he's not so much misinterpreting the law, he's using it as a smokescreen and just basically acting like he was a micro-present King George III. He just wants, actually he's aping the idea of what Obama has been doing, which is I want what I want, and I want it when I want it, and I'm going to do it now because that's when I want it now kind of deal, right?
Exactly. And what happens is that the superintendents and the school administrations, since they have an unlimited legal budget almost, they can really bamboozle the taxpayers into anything they want. And because of the ignorance of the taxpayers, they get away with it.
Yes, like Obama has been getting away with an awful lot, like our WTF moments of this morning where, again, Obama's EPA is just doing what it wants. But is there anything else besides just renaming the school and saying, I don't care what's gone on, we're just going to do it anyways, which, that kind of thing has happened up in my town of Guilford where the voters said, we're not going to do full-day kindergarten, and the district decided to do it anyways.
Oh, that's different. In this particular case, it was the issue that he wanted to close Sandown Central to save money. Okay, on the one hand, that's what came before the annual meeting. And then after the annual meeting, he says, oh, no, we're going to use the buildings to consolidate special education for the district. Don't forget, Timberlane is a regional school district that consists of 4 towns. So that's what he's doing. He said, okay, no sense letting that building go to waste because we still have to maintain it. So we're going to repurpose it. And therefore, it's no longer subject to any actions of the annual meeting. And yes, we have money in the budget. Sure, they have. They always carry about $2 to $4 million surplus.
And this is the kind of thing where you keep worrying about the strong man when it comes to politics or in government, where you get people like this who believe they are above the rest. It's typically the progressive model. I know what's best for you, or in this case, I know what's best for the town. I've got your money already, so I'm just going to do it. And, oh, by the way, there's nothing you can do to stop me. I mean, what's the feeling of the taxpayers that you come in contact with about this type of deal? Or is it a case, once again, where not enough people even know what's going on and they don't care because it doesn't affect them at the moment?
From what I see, from where I sit here, there is a lot of traffic in Facebook and otherwise, pro and con. But people are primarily incensed that the superintendent is behaving, like you said, like a little Hitler. You know, and instead of being open about it and saying, okay, this is what we plan to do if we close it, that he should have disclosed before the annual meeting, as opposed to after the meeting, then they're incensed that they feel powerless. So they're trying to every which way to see how they can, shall I say, curtail or restrict his actions so that they don't get, part of my language, screwed again.
Is anybody launching right-to-know requests about this? The first thing he did when he came on board was to institute a $1 per page fee on any right-to-know request. We never had that. Never. So now he has stymied that, and then he has all sorts of obstacles to get the information. That's another story. Yeah, I mean, the right-to-know request, that's how it all began. We began to get an awful lot of information. But then he really put a stop to that. In other words, he tried to cure in health. Don't forget, he came from Quincy. He was a principal in Quincy, Massachusetts. And Massachusetts politics are totally different from New Hampshire. He had no experience.
Not so much.
Better New Hampshire. Okay, and like I say to myself jokingly, I said, good thing there is no bay next to Glasgow. Otherwise, I would wear a life jacket whenever I go down to AU.
So, obviously they've come after you, Jorge. But other than you, do you see the rest of the school board?
I have no standing. I'm in Hampstead. I'm getting this from the people, the activists.
Yeah.
Donna Green and company in Timberlane.
Yeah. Now, question: what's the school board doing about this, or are they just basically where the same thing that we see all over the place? With the school board, basically, is the lap dog and the rubber stamp for the superintendent.
You got it. That's exactly it.
Great.
The Timberlane School Board has circled the wagons, and they are protecting him any which way, and they are trying to squash anything that Donna Green, a member of the school board, or her husband, who was a former member of the budget committee, come out, because they come out with they are the ones who have been digging out all this dirt.
Yeah, it's if you go to Donna Green's blog, I believe it's I forget the name of it now, Sandown Danville or something. Just search Donna Green, you'll find her. She's got a great blog. I mean, she is just on top of everything there. She reports everything that happens, and it's pretty impressive. We got to go, Jorge. Thanks for coming on and explaining that to us.
We missed the best one. Do you have a minute?
I don't. I have about 10 seconds.
Okay. But we have the better part to go yet about SAUs not being subject to audits.
All right, we'll get to that next time then. Thanks a lot. Okay. See ya.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, Jorge's, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll get to this other thing. Maybe we'll have him on next weekend. We're going to be right back with Rick. Hang on.
This is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
GrokTALK comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
We are GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Check them out at cnht.org to see how they help municipalities and taxpayers interface in a as unhostile now. Well, it depends on what's going on. Check out the voter fraud stuff. Great stuff. Probably going on in your town, probably going on in your city, probably going on in your state. If you don't see it, go to cnht.org and read it, and then go find it, because it's there. I trust you. Trust me, it's there. Absolutely. You'll find all this stuff there. Yeah. Outrage.
And Ed is hooked into the group that just found out that in 141 counties across this nation, there are more people registered to vote in each and every one of those 141 counties than there are people alive in that county. So, tell me, is there voter fraud?
There's
Do we
voter
see
fraud. Oh, no. There's no voter fraud in New Hampshire.
No.
The Democrats say so.
That's true. Must be true.
So, and you're saying that with a straight face.
Thanks again to Jorge.
No, there's no vote fraud. There's no vote fraud. They'll tell you there's no vote fraud.
Well, there's no videos.
We have a lot of anecdotal evidence that says otherwise, but that's administrative. That's not voter fraud.
Right.
That's administrative snafus.
Just like there's no videos of Planned Parenthood either.
Right. Yeah, those were rigged.
Those were staged like the moon landing.
Yep. They're creative editors. Everybody's lying except them.
Yeah, this is what we've heard ever since James O'Keefe started doing this, that they always yell at the short form ones, and then he always, a couple days later, puts out the full forms.
Yep.
And Planned Parenthood really thinks that it's going to discredit them. And by the way, I haven't put it up yet, but James O'Keefe now has video of Hillary's campaign.
Oh, that ought to be
I got to
good.
put that up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's most excellent.
But we're not here to talk about that.
No.
We're here to talk about hoplophobes and NRA stickers. And,
yes.
And
a hoplophobe is, Rick, for those who don't know the long words?
So a hoplophobe, hoplo being the Greek word for weapon, phobe being fear. It's a person that has an irrational and unfounded fear of guns or firearms or weapons for that matter.
And you had a great post about one who is exactly that. Who, by the way, since I went searching last night, has taken down his site.
He has. He's taken it completely down. And that's a shame, too, because, first I want to say about this blog, he's a writer for a newspaper, some of these not so big but bigger type newspapers, sports writer, I guess. And he put out this rant, and, just to give you a sampling of what he wrote, he basically stated, he makes a lot of assertions he says, by displaying that NRA decal on the rear window of your car, you're endorsing violent death.
Well, they're not assertions, Rick. They're assumptions.
No, they're assertions because they're not based in fact, and it's born out of emotion. Definitely an assertion.
He's making assertions, but he's also making assumptions about the person with the sticker, and we all know what assume does.
Right. Well, I'm reading the blog, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not even worth my time and effort. But first, before I go on, I want to congratulate the city of Concord, New Hampshire. Bravo! Bravo! I mean, you now match South Boston with parking and construction issues. Congratulations. What a feat, what an honor. So anyways, back to the subject.
And making it impossible to park in front of our studio because now they've got 2-hour restrictions anytime of the day or
but
week.
It's pretty.
I parked two blocks away. What are all these people doing here on a Saturday morning? What the hell are they doing? What is there? Everything's closed. What are you doing? You just coming around? Oh, I'm going to walk around. Okay, whatever. I don't get it. I mean, when you can beat Manch Vegas on parking issues, you have arrived. You've definitely arrived.
That's true.
So, Viva Manch Vegas. They've actually gotten their parking issues well under control. You go to the Verizon Wireless Arena, you have some major player there.
Yeah.
There's actually enough parking.
Yep.
But, I mean, they don't have anything like that up here, and their parking sucks. What's up with that?
Well, once again, we're seeing another phase of urban planners, such as Concord is urban.
The apparatchik.
Yeah, deciding what is going to be best. And,
Right.
Every single time they do this, they go after 20 years and going, well, that didn't work out too well, did it? And here in the age of...
Give us another couple $1 million and we'll screw it up again.
Yeah.
Well, you'll
Different from the last time we screwed it
You'll
up.
notice that the actual productive shops have moved to side streets and back streets where people can still get to them, and the yuppie, worthless shops like vapor salons that are now on the front row where nobody will be able to get to them either because of the parking. So with a bit of luck, the right people will go out of business.
And how many plastic cut flower shops do you really need in downtown, Concord? Seriously.
But anyways, back to the hoplophobe.
Back to the hoplophobe. I looked at this blog, and I was one of the ones that got the early on, when the...
And you show up in Google, by the way.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So that's even better, So basically you have this blog out there, right? And I showed up at a point where it was still up and the comments were up, and I read the blog and I went, ooh, got to read the comments, So I scrolled down, and he was taking some pretty good abuse from it,
Did you happen to screen capture that?
No, I didn't. Because, again, I was at the point where I'm going, why am I wasting my time on this? But then as I scrolled down through the comments, I saw a state legislature show up and start saying things like, I feel your pain, and I went, uh-oh, okay, it just got real. So I actually copied the blog. And here's the thing, too. On Facebook, I actually contacted the author, and we had a conversation back and forth.
Okay.
And one of the things that I'm careful to do in a circumstance like that is to be absolutely polite. And I said, I read your blog about, NRA members that have their stickers being a threat. I need you to bear in mind, you're probably talking about one of your family members, one of your relatives.
Yeah, and you said that in your post.
I did. And I said, also, you're talking about yourself, because a lot of the people that have these stickers are just like you. There's not much different about them than you. They're just like you. They have families and mortgages. I also said that in the post. But, he talks about, he tries to be... It's not a rational blog. It all comes from viscera, from within. It's not grounded in fact. Like, I'll give you a quote. I see the NRA decal on the rear window of my car, and my eyes narrow. I look at the back of your head in the driver's seat, and I wonder if you are a threat. A threat to my children, a threat to me, a threat to society. Really? That's charlatanry.
This guy doesn't even rise to the level of being a beta male.
Does he know a lot of cops are trained by the NRA?
Well, yeah, NRA has the largest law enforcement training.
The people who he empowers to be weaponized and to defend his son and his family are NRA members.
NRA is the largest provider of law enforcement training. They are also the largest provider of grants and funding. 501c3, the NRA Foundation, to do things like build ranges, do Eddie Eagle gun education programs. The Eddie Eagle program is it hasn't grabbed on around here, but it's very popular in the Midwest. And it's a program, it doesn't involve guns at all. It's what do you do, kids, if you see a gun? Go tell somebody, don't touch it, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, we here are all NRA members, except I got to renew my membership.
I'm a life member.
Yeah. So, maybe I should do that so I don't have to remember any of it.
You should.
Yeah.
There you go.
But anyways,
do they still send you the mail?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, they don't send me mail anymore because, in the interest of disclosure, I'm the chairman of the Friends of NRA that funds the NRA Foundation in Rockingham County. I'm a NRA certified club leader. I'm an NRA certified pistol instructor, firearms instructor. So they said, he's doing enough. Let's stop sending him mail. So they don't send me a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But
and when you read stuff like this, you go, this is definitely a person who has decided to outsource his own personal responsibility to somebody else. And even worse, from my viewpoint of what a father and husband should be, has outsourced the responsibility of his family to some faceless bureaucrat who happens to work in government.
Well, here's what I responded to him with that. A threat to my children, threat to me, a threat to society. I have a picture of Gilda Radner you remember when she was on Saturday Night Live doing the monsters in the closet thing? Mm-hmm. Well, remember when you were a kid and you got scared because you thought monsters were hiding in the closet or under your bed? I remember when I was a kid, I sometimes slept in my bed with my knees cocked up in my abdomen because I feared snakes in my bed. This is the adult version of those fears. Some anxieties never change, only the things we are anxious about. Zoloft is now commonly prescribed for this. So that was my response to him, And, he talks about, the NRA. He says, I see a news report about the latest shooting deaths in the United States. I brace myself for the NRA talking points on social media. I try not to read them. I fail at that. I am appalled, saddened, and sickened. Not just sickened, but appalled and saddened, and angry. I am reminded why I consider you a potential threat. Well, here's the thing. Ironically, the NRA doesn't come out with talking points, and they don't have press conferences in the wake of these shooting tragedies. They're actually quite silent, But how do you come out as responsive? Because NRA speaks only when such solipsism, favorite word of the day, begins to gravitate to the policy forum. Yet when the NRA is silent, the charlatans and hoplophobes line up to call out the NRA on their silence. And then when they speak, they seethe, hiss, contempt upon every word spoken. That tells you everything you need to know right there.
This is probably the most egregious viewpoint that I see, is that anybody who has a gun is automatically to be branded a criminal, is automatically to be branded medically unworthy, who is already judged to be mentally incompetent. Of course, they say that about just being a plain conservative anyways. But you see this mentality by progressives that, and it's almost cognitive dissonance, because while they berate us for what we carry on our persons to protect ourselves, I watch them, like in the case of Brendan Eich, they have no problem dealing out vitriol to force somebody out of a position because of a political belief.
Right.
So here they are lambasting for a potential that, for the most part, never happens, but yet they themselves, as a group, have no problem in using every single tool at their disposal to effectively destroy somebody's life. And yet this guy is saying, you guys with NRA stickers on your cars, I'm so courageous. I refuse to put one on my car because my wife would browbeat me for putting a sticker on my car. So there you go.
Yep.
But, I'm sorry, but there's no consistency. There's also no logic to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, people do die. Half the deaths, however, are by suicides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Most of these suicides would still be suicides by some other means.
Suicide by some other means. The other thing is let's count up all the gangbangers in Chicago and L.A. MS-13 that are shooting each other over turf wars and drugs.
And you're absolutely right.
And shooting the 9-year-old girls doing their homework as they go by.
Exactly. When do Black Lives Matter exactly? When some thug gets blown away by a white cop, Black Lives Matter, but we don't hear a peep out of him when the 9-year-old's sitting there doing the homework and a gangbanger does a drive-by and shoots her.
So let us be clear. The only Black lives that matter to the hucksters like Al Sharpton are the thugs that get obliterated.
Absolutely.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Rick Olson. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is GrokTALK.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime, on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK. GrokTALk.
We are New Hampshire's leading fire-breathing, hard-charging, gun-toting, outspoken, rebel-rousing, freedom-loving bloggers who have a TV studio in a box. And that's what we are.
And we are the safest podcast in New Hampshire.
A tad bit more safer with Rick here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm Steve
Yes,
McDonald
I
here
am
with
armed.
Rick is one of the most highly accomplished armed persons in New Hampshire.
And Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Richard Olson, talking to us about Carter Gaddis, the hoplophobe, who has since taken his website down.
What he's actually done is he's marked it private. Exactly. You got to log in. You got to be invited by him because those nasty gun supporters might insult him otherwise.
Yes, his URL is dadscribe.com.
Yes.
Well, I think what happened was he was sitting at the table, and now he's been taken down so you can't see him because he's under the table.
Yeah, big time, big way.
Big brave guy. Yep. Somebody challenges him, and he's like,
he's like the reporters for that newspaper in southern New York State where they published the map of all the of all the gun license owners. Right. They didn't turn out so brave when James O'Keefe's crew showed up on their lawns asking them to take a gun-free zone sign for their own houses.
They wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Yes.
No. So, he's perfectly, as I wrote under your post, he's perfectly free to live in his gun-free zone as long as as long as he'll advertise the fact.
Sure.
Because the criminals love gun-free zones, and meanwhile, the rest of us will cling to our arms and have low crime in our neighborhoods.
Question for you, quick, Rick.
Yeah.
The Milwaukee County Sheriff, and I can't remember his name.
David Clark.
Yes, came out the other night where Obama said, we need more gun laws.
It's gone viral.
Yes, and he basically said, okay, with your bodyguards, get rid of their guns and see how the rest of us live. I throw down that challenge to you. What do you think of that whole situation there in context of Mr. Gaddis?
Well, I think David Clark is a great American, and I'm also want to include in that list Detroit Police Chief Craig.
Yes.
Okay. Because here we go, Detroit, the highest murder rate in the United States. And so what does the police chief do? Okay, that's
yourselves.
it. I've had enough. Time to take a gun course, buy guns, arm yourself. Guess what? Violence is down 12% in a very short period of time. But, the liberals will be the first to tell you there's no causal link between, violence, crime going down and more people having guns. There's no link.
So I'm the first to say,
unless you're in Plano, Texas.
Yes, exactly.
So let's put Black Lives Matter in its proper place. Not what Al Sharpton says. What the Supreme Court said. What the Supreme Court said was the poor black guy in a crime-ridden neighborhood in D.C. Heller had the right to own a gun and carry it and defend himself. Yep. And the town of D.C. still tries to make it difficult.
They still resist.
Yeah.
Well,
and then there was McDonald in Chicago.
Yep. McDonald versus Chicago.
Wasn't he a black guy as well?
Yep.
Those lives do
no
matter.
relation. Well, we might be related.
I would like to see every black parent, especially those over 40, in these inner cities armed, subsidized even.
Sure.
Because boy, oh boy, the gangbangers had run off somewhere else.
One of the things you can tell that he's a liberal because he naturally no blog. The blog would be no blog is complete unless you talk about fairness. So that is what the NRA decal displayed in the rear window of your car tells me. Okay, and then he asked the question: is that fair? Well, I don't know. Because, people have been putting this quote up. Wow, I love that quote.
We're not out to get him, but he's paranoid anyway.
I wrote, fairness is for Democrats and 5-year-olds, And basically, I stopped measuring fairness a long time ago when the anti-gun agitprops stepped up their attacks and outright lies and manipulations and personal attacks. For their effort, nothing is ever left on the table. Okay, measures and standards of fairness are virtually non-existent unless it is the likes of me attacking some anti-gun measure. Then, and only then, does the crucible of fairness come into play. And it is I who stands accused of being unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Gee, paranoid much?
That's a good quote, though. Wouldn't you agree? Fairness is for Democrats and 5-year-olds.
It is. But here's the other thing. You talked about the redefinition of the language by progressives to suit their political whim.
Absolutely.
And we all know that they can't even call themselves the same name. They started off as progressives, screwed that name over, called themselves liberals. They've screwed that name over. Now they're calling themselves progressives. And now with the advent of Bernie, they're starting to finally say we've got to be socialists because, as Debbie Wasserman Schultz says,
Democratic socialists. Bernie will correct you.
Yes. Well, the problem is there's not much of a difference between it.
Did.
But my question to you is, he also had you quoted him on the idea. Well, what about my right to live freely without fear? And I look at that and. That's part of the redefinition of the language.
There's no such right.
There is no such right.
There is no such thing as no fear. You can minimize fear. You can minimize fear.
We'd have to get rid of all the spiders.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I was going to say, should there be a government program to subsidize the homeowner who fears snakes and spiders?
Or let me paraphrase a famous movie. Snakes. Why does it always have to be snakes?
Yes.
Indiana Jones.
I mean, seriously. People are...
All right.
But I mean, what?
Never give up, never surrender. What was the theme music to that, Steve?
I don't know. I have the quote, though.
Maybe we can
Never
have a government program.
Never surrender.
Perfect.
So, sure. I'm sorry.
Especially to the EPA, but never mind.
Yeah. I mean, think about what fear is. Fear is an emotion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there a hoplophobe Democrat out there who happens to be listening that would disagree with me? Fear. It's an emotion. It's none of our business what you're afraid of. That's for you to deal with.
Oh, I like that. That's a good grok shot.
Right. And the other thing is you run your life to make it as low fear as possible for yourself.
What if you're afraid of government?
Well, yeah, we are.
What about those people?
Yeah, then we arm ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. If you look it up in the book, it's a mental disease.
They're certainly trying to make it that way. What do you have to fear from your own government? Well, you look back in history, you look around the world, you go, government, it can be scary.
Oh, his tinfoil's got a hole in it. I can hear them all now.
Well, then I ask, what is so different about the American government that would keep us from being oppressed by our own government, especially now where we see day after day, the Supreme Court has said so, when our government refuses to play by its own rules.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's the problem. That is the beginning of the end, when the rule of law is being pushed aside for political power.
We have reached a point where the Constitution, which was the rule book for the government, is no longer seen by the governing class as applying to itself. And so the restraints which we thought we had on government have turned out to be mythical. We thought we had a set of chains, and they turned out to be cotton, thin cotton yarns that have been snapped.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the justices from long ago, once quipped, "Law is the witness and external deposit of our moral society." And if you think about what that quote is telling us, it's never more true today. Because, I mean, I look at just our general state of lawlessness. Chris Christie, love him or hate him, he's got it right on that level. Our government is lawless. I mean, look how long ago Benghazi happened. You got Hillary with the whole email thing. Nobody's being held accountable.
No, and that is
Fast
correct.
And Furious is still.
Yep.
Last year at
Nobody's
the Pam
being
Geller
held
event, that guy got a gun from the government.
Yeah, Lois Lerner.
Lois Lerner.
With the
Again,
the
lawless.
EPA, the Interior Department, the DOT, HUD. I mean, we can go down the list of every single thing.
Most of these are not necessary, and that is perhaps the hardest thing for the government fans to grasp. These departments are not necessary.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Oh, was it you that posted the thing where the some wag had got the wrong NRA, or was that on Twitchy? Somebody had used the logo for the National Recovery Administration.
Oh, that wasn't me, no.
And said some past president of the NRA was against guns. Well,
National Recovery
of Roosevelt's National Recovery
Wasn't that
Administration.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Sure was.
Sure
was. Yeah, it was.
It's always the progressives that want to take the guns away.
Guns, what's not to hate?
And remember, progressives are nothing more than socialist. I didn't finish that.
And they love guns. They love guns.
But only...
They love guns.
As long as they're the ones using them to oppress you.
Correct.
The other aspect of this blog that he wrote, he takes a fairly common liberal tack. It's the accusatory pointing finger. And he writes, you would rather risk lives thousands more than take responsible action. Now, what the hell is that, responsible action? What does he mean? He doesn't define that, So, it's an emotional rant. But I can clearly understand why people reacted the way he did. I mean, the guy had to shut his comments down first, and then he had to shut the whole blog down,
Yeah.
You can only read the blog now if you get a special invitation. And if you're a card-carrying member of Moms Demand Action, I bet it's open right now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Bloomies and all those folks have probably got free, unfettered access. But we've also, one of the things this blog demonstrates, first he shuts down the comments. Now he's shut down the entire blog so nobody can get to it except by, I don't know what, username and password or something given by him. Freedom of speech is dead.
Yeah, debate's not an option on this issue, apparently.
Well, let me kind of nit for a little bit. The freedom of speech in the First Amendment has nothing to do with us in civil society. It was always government doing it. So if he doesn't want to talk, he certainly has the freedom of silence as well. If he if he doesn't want to debate, that's cool. But it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. They refuse to engage because they can't win the logical arguments. They have the emotional part, as you well put it, but they can't go after the logical stuff. They hate the stats. On Megyn Kelly the other night, they had Dana Loesch and some other person, and they were screaming at each other. And Dana Loesch is ticking off stat after stat after stat, and the other person was doing the I want my freedom from fear kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just losing our mind, basically.
And it comes down to, and it really is, folks, we're orthogonal. We do not meet them. They do not meet us. It's almost like we do need to be separate countries because there is no compromise between the two.
Right.
It's an either-or, binary on or off kind of deal with respect to almost everything. And I got news for you. This country cannot last that long without that. You gave that quote, and I'd love for you to put that up as a notable quote up on the Grok, because the moral part. We don't have a common morality anymore.
Right.
What we used to see as traditional American values, including gun ownership, is gone.
Going to break soon.
I've
finish
been
your
cut
thought.
off.
Finish your
No,
thought.
I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Because I'd go long if I kept
I know
going.
you could, but you
reckon
can also
if
go
we heave
short.
off the East Coast and call it Libtopia, that the rest of the country would be conservative?
We'd have to move.
Well, these debates are about winners and losers. We didn't set those rules; they did.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm more than willing to make it about winners and losers, as long as they're the losers.
All right, well, they will be the losers. We're going to start turning microphones off because we're going to go off here in a couple seconds. A little 5-minute shindig at the top of the hour, and we'll be back if Max shows up on time. If not, we'll just keep talking to Rick because, what the heck? That's what we're here for. Here to have a little conversation. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Rick Olson. We are GrokTALK, and we will be right back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Don't go away. We're still here.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is Steve McDonald for Granite Grok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Rock Talk.
Feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
Rock Talk.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Rock. Flashback.
We will have to talk to the proprietor of the office space and go, which hole do we use?
Yeah, I hate it when you have to say that. The
We should go back, I think, so talking of college, to the scheme whereby not only do the parents help their kids, but there are no government subsidies, and let the colleges compete for the best kids by offering scholarships to those that are the best kids.
That's crazy talk.
There's Steve, always with the smart remark.
That'd work, too. That's why they won't do it. It'll work. You know, at their core, I mean, society can scope.
Right, so about 3 squirrels ago.
GraniteGrok.com is a product of GraniteGrok.com. GrokTALK is a product of GraniteGrok.com.
I just love this idea of how they're going to go to a bourbon festival or several bourbon festivals in Kentucky, because that's where the young people go. So first we'll get them drunk, and then we'll hook them onto Obamacare. What a country!
As the old Russian poet Pushkin said, where there is a trough, there will be pigs.
I tell you what, you guys have a great sense of humor. I mean, no matter how much ribbon I do, even that airbrush Marine you have there, no matter how much ribbon I give you guys always come back for more, and you're always polite. And, you know, I go to the liberal websites where I have a lot of fun haranguing them, and they really get their panties in a wad. And I'm always getting kicked off, and I have to make a new name, and it's brutal.
Yeah,
and they're wrong.
Yeah, it's almost like saying their crap don't stink.
I was about to say the same thing. Their poop don't stink, but you know.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Here on Grok Talk, we have crap, we have poop, we have monster trucks. Okay. We have come pretty close to the end of this segment.
Good.
Things are deteriorating.
Grok Talk.
Grok Talk comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. Grok Talk is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
Rock Talk.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
The 603 Alliance held its second training seminar on Tuesday, August 11, 2015 at St. Anselm's Institute of Politics, and despite the heavy storms throughout the area, the turnout was fantastic. After introductions and a brief overview of who the 603 Alliance and CVL New Hampshire LLC are, the training focused on the first in the state 603 Grassroots Presidential Caucus to be held on Saturday, October 17, 2015 at the Hopkinton Fairgrounds. Procedures for the caucus were discussed and a call to action for volunteers to help on event day was met with great enthusiasm. Almost everyone volunteered to help, and thanks to our wonderful friends from Massachusetts who have offered their assistance as caucus marshals. If you could not make the training seminar this week but would like to volunteer your time, please download the GPS Caucus sign-up form available at 603alliance.org. There are instructions on the site for where to send the form.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
Silence, heathens. Max is in the room. Welcome back to GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Rick Olson, and Max Abramson's just joined us. We wanted to let you know that if you did miss the live show, you should be listening to us on Spreaker or Stitcher or TuneIn or iHeart or iTunes. We're even on YouTube. We're also on Ustream. And, of course, The Rock, NHCR.com, is streaming us live this morning. I have confirmation, and our rebroadcast on that channel is at 1 o'clock on Monday. So you can check us out again there, and we hope you do. Because we bring all these nice people in to talk about all these cool things. We want you to hear the conversation, and if you didn't catch our impromptu rendition of the theme to Indiana Jones, you really missed out. I'm sorry, but you can listen to the podcast and check it out. So
you called us heathens.
Heathens, we are heathens. No, we're not.
No,
heathens.
we're not heathens.
To the secularists, we are.
Oh, for them, we are true believers.
Great phrase, by the way, and I don't remember where I picked it up. I think I got it from Ace via somebody else, but they were talking about speech and in general, and there used to be blasphemy laws, and now there's basically secular blasphemy laws. The entire PC coalition, the entire things you can't say and things you can't do and things you can't display and all that other stuff. It's the new secular blasphemy. So it's just as oppressive to the free expression of ideas. It's just controlled by the government instead. So it's a great phrase, secular blasphemy. And there's a lot of it, and we'll be talking about it if Stella Morbido manages to call in. She had some 10 keys for getting around that kind of stuff. I want to talk about that if we have time. But Max has joined us, and we want to talk about HB 603, which you can explain to our listeners, sir.
Well, I'm a co-sponsor for HB 603. All it does is codify and guarantee that parents have the right to take their child out of these annual assessments. These assessments are officially 2 hours, but I was doing a little bit of research online, and a few teachers have had their students come in and take these online assessments, and these assessments sometimes take some students so long that they actually wear out their laptop battery. So in theory, you can bring your child can bring their own laptop in and take the test that way. There's an online website. You log in. I decided to do the little guest test thing. It took me about 10 minutes to get through all the little click on this, click on this, click on this. And one of the complaints that the teachers are having is there's a very, very long security agreement that they have to read and sign before they can administer these assessment tests. And they can't be there, they can't watch the child, they can't supervise them. It has to be totally independent. And the child has to be separate from instructors and whatnot. Now, these assessments, people say, well, we have to measure the aptitude and skills of our children. But in fact, these annual federal assessments don't measure math skills, and they don't measure reading skills, and they don't measure any of that stuff. What they're looking for is the child's opinions, attitudes, and beliefs. It's kind of like a psychological review, and some parents have raised concerns about the questions because a lot of these questions for assessments and Smarter Balance assessment and PACE tests and whatnot, the questions are being developed in secret, and the questions are secret, and the parents are not allowed to know what they are, and they're slowly revealing some of the questions, and it it reads like a psychological survey. So they're really getting into the nitty-gritty of what are your personal beliefs about things.
So this is more akin to what we've seen in colleges being taught to teachers. You have to have a certain disposition. That's the key word here. You have to have a certain disposition to be able to be a teacher. You have to have a certain disposition to be a social worker. And we have seen Christians, Bible-believing people or people of faith, being thrown out of these college studies because they've been adjudicated not to be, as Steve said, secular enough and not willing to go along with things. So we're seeing the people who own the keys to the gates of an occupation do that. Now they're bringing it down to our children in public school. And I think you're right, Max. It really is a case of they are keeping the parents away from the kids in doing this. They're discrediting the parents. And how is a parent supposed to fight this when they don't know what's on the test? I mean, is there a way for a parent to get this information? Because it's all computer generated, it's all computer given. How can a parent nowadays get this to read it for themselves? Do they have the ability legally to get it?
Well, and that isn't clear to me yet. I mean, we've been doing as much research as we can on this, but we can't get access to it. Parents are telling us they can't get access to it. They're asking us how to get access to it. Teachers might not have access to it. So we don't even know if we're allowed to have access to some of these questions where, you know, of course, my big thing is pushing political advocacy in the public schools is one of the things I've been fighting against in my district out on the seacoast. And I hear, you know, almost every single door I go to, they're pushing left-wing political advocacy in the public schools. And you listen to people, and it's amazing. It's amazing how far it's gone, how extreme it's gone. And so we would like to look at the tests and see if there's a left-wing bias on some of these assessments. Now, these aren't the only assessments. This is just one. This is just one per year. There's a teacher who posted online. He said 27 days a year of classes, 27 days are eaten up by standardized testing, just by testing, not teaching. And you've got more and more teachers now upset saying, hey, less testing, more teaching. If you look at the absolute top schools in Europe, they're in Finland. The absolute top of the board when they finally do their end of the career, you know, high school graduation, standardized tests, standardized European tests. It's Finland. Well, Finland doesn't do any standardized testing. In fact, there's very little testing going on in the schools at all, except what the teachers decide to come up with.
Right. I mean, I remember more a case of the teachers would do you quizzes on the stuff they were teaching you to make sure they were getting it through.
Mm-hmm. Why do you need a master's degree to proctor a test that you can't even be in the room? I don't get that.
That makes no sense to me. Well,
and the salary to go with that.
The union officials are now, in my experience, the public sector union officials are becoming more and more liberal, socialist, communist, whatever you want to call them. Politically, they're way out there. And I've talked to other guys at the union hall and even other, you know, union agents and whatnot. People who've been union men and women for all their lives, and they're talking to the public sector union officials, and they are so liberal. And they are so defensive of left-wing politics and socialism in the Democratic Party.
There was a guy that spoke at the 603 Alliance Grassroots Summit from New Zealand. He wrote a book about how the socialists took over the unions.
Yeah,
and that's why they're like
that.
The
Enemies Within, it's called, and he's got a full-size DVD of it as well.
People forget the American Federation of Labor under Samuel O. Gompers, back in the day when unions were real unions. They were very much anti-communist, anti-socialist. They kept the socialist activists out because they found they didn't do anything. You get them on the job, and they didn't do anything except, you know, go on and on and on and talk all day like we are right now.
So when was Samuel Gompers? Give me the bit of U.S. history there.
He was a cigar guy.
Ronald Reagan called Samuel Gompers probably the greatest union organizer in American history. He first got started, I think, in 1881 with the Cigar Makers Union. Yeah. And he really started to think more and more about this as he had a very clear idea for what the union's position was, what its place was in the economy to represent the workers.
And let us remember back then, even the leftist president, FDR, thought that government unions were a really bad idea and should never be allowed.
Right. And
one of the things I used to write about years ago was about the SEIU. They were taken over by socialists, and person after person after person who were president of locals or regionals or at the national level were part of the socialist communist parties.
Mm-hmm.
And with the post I put up this past week, here's the 1963 goals of the Communist Party, and one of them was explicitly, and that had been around for a long time, was to take over the unions. And indeed, they're very blunt about it. You go to Chicago with the teachers' unions. The head of the teachers' union says, flat out, I'm a socialist. End of story. And you look at this stuff, and it's certainly not our world as we grew up anymore.
Someone told me that all 44 of Obama's policy czars, drugs, transportation, whatever, all of them are openly socialist or communist, and all of the people surrounding the Obamas are openly socialist and communist.
Well, I remember
and
when...
it's just the way that they are.
Those are the ones that aren't openly Iranian.
Yeah, I remember when
I was thinking that
when Anita Dunn said that one of the people she looked up to was Mao Zedong, and she said it in a church at a gathering, and then realized afterwards what she had just done. It was what has been called a gaffe, the telling of truth inadvertently, or as we were talking about, unexpectedly.
Unexpectedly.
You know, I have one question about these kids taking these tests. When does it devolve to a point where they're sitting at the laptop taking the test and they get an electric shock if they answer incorrectly? You know, I mean, it's all got to be headed in that direction, you know.
I had a college professor recently. They're asking your impression of certain things. You know, it's your impression. Well, why are they asking me my impression of something, of some reading? And I would write, well, this is more, divisive left-wing political advocacy, and it's pushing more of the same tired old victim class and entitlement this and that. And he didn't like it. And he marked me down. He gave me 50%, so he failed me on that assignment and he said he didn't like my response. Well, the question is just, they're just asking me for my opinion, my impression of this. And I said, this is my impression of that story. It's more left-wing advocacy.
This is why we need more kids with cameras. And it would have been perfect to be able to say, you asked me my opinion. I gave you my opinion. Now you're telling me my opinion is wrong, but it's my opinion.
All right, we're going to take a really, really, really short break, and we'll be right back as soon as I get done pushing all these buttons. Hang on. Stay tuned. We're here.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK. GrokTALk.
If you didn't know, I'm Steve McDonald. To my left, we have Skip Murphy. At the end of the table, we have Mike Rogers. To his left, we have Max Abramson. And to his left, and we're all on the right, by the way, Richard Olson. You going to put that on before I turn it on so I don't hear this? Okay, let's go microphone.
Nobody gets to the right of this group.
That's right. So to my right, Rick Olson, Max Abramson, Mike Rogers, who's right at the end of the table, and Skip Murphy.
That makes me most rightist.
That makes you the most rightist.
Or the most righteous.
But you're immediately to my left, which is not right.
The most righteous Skip Murphy.
No, it's not.
Yes, sir.
Before I forget, I used to live in Manchester, Ward 5, and I went around and doorbelled and doorbelled and doorbelled. I went through almost the entire district after one or two campaigns. Rich is in my district, or was in my district. I no longer live there. But But it was solidly Democrat, always Democrat, and I kept going door to door, and I'd find some fiscally conservative Democrats and independents. A lot of people didn't vote because they thought it was hopeless, pointless, and yet going door to door, we saw voter turnout increase every year that I was doing, going door to door, saying, hey, we can clean up the system. We just need people to go out there and run. But that district kept losing. We could never get Republicans elected. And I finally ran into Norma Greer Champagne, who did get elected finally last year, and a couple years ago. And the reason was you had all these nice old ladies in this old kind of lower
Tarrytown
income.
Road.
Yep. These apartments, probably 300 voters. Almost every single one voted Democrat because they just continue to believe that the Democrats are the party of Harry Truman and are going to help people one day. And the vast majority of them don't pay attention. So what's happened with a lot of those districts is Republicans have given up on those districts. And they just don't go there. And yet it turns out, sure enough, if you campaign and campaign and campaign, of course, eventually those nice old ladies, they're in their 70s and 80s, some of them will change their mind, some of them will move on, and some of them will pass away.
Expire.
But that district, eventually the people can get back control over their legislative district. And eventually, even those really tough inner city, inner Manchester, if you ever look at Manchester, the blue-red map, all around the outside, it's all Republican on the extremes, and then right in the center, it's all solidly Democrat. Well, sure enough, if you campaign in those areas, eventually over time it can become competitive again. But
90% of success is just showing up.
But if you don't doorbell, we've seen this in. I spoke to a Republican who used to live in Connecticut, and he said they had this solidly almost 2-to-1 Democrat neighborhood, and he and a couple of others went around and went doorbelled and doorbelled and doorbelled, and they showed that these Republicans, they're workers, and once you do that, if you've done that enough, eventually you swing that district. And that district went from solidly Democrat to solidly Republican. And then gradually, because it's socially liberal and so forth, because the media effect, gradually over time the numbers go down and down and down and down and down. And what's happened in a lot of our cities that used to vote Republican, remember about 10 or 15 years ago, half of all mayors in this country were Republican. Now they're all Democrat. So solidly polarized now. And when Ronald Reagan ran, he won every state in the nation except for, I think, was it Wisconsin or Minnesota or something? I think Minnesota.
Can't remember.
Washington, D.C.
It was one of those, yeah.
In 80 and 84. In 1980, he lost a few southern states. In 84, he picked them all up. He won every state in the nation. He won 40% of the vote in New York City. So people think that, you have these lefty areas and the left controls things, but they really don't. Because, that saying from Star Wars, the more you squeeze your fingers, the more you tighten down, the more systems will slip through your grasp. People don't like being crushed. The union guys especially don't like having the heavy-handed approach that the union officials take when they push the socialist agenda. So people they don't like the rigidness. They hate the political correctness, and Donald Trump really tapped into this. He said this political correctness has got to stop. That's the loudest standing ovation that he's gotten on the whole campaign trail, at least for debates.
When I was at that education summit, the governors were talking about a lot of the reforms they did. And, of course, you have Scott Walker, who completely turned his state around. You've got, everybody was fighting with the unions. And they would talk about trying to get school choice and but union bosses, they're talking about school choice and vouchers and homeschooling and all these things that we talk about. And we're like, these things all make perfect sense. The teachers don't necessarily oppose it. The parents don't oppose it. The students don't oppose it. But the union bosses do. And so you'll go in and you'll force these reforms through where you can. And then, they would talk about how sometimes teachers would be like, thank you.
Go to Ward 5 where I live. There's a few aspects that people don't really realize. But, did you folks know that Ward 5 Manchester is home to one of the state's largest employers? Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Health
I used to live there.
Yeah, Elliott Hospital and Associated Health Systems.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,600 people they employ.
Yeah,
it's one of the state's largest employers, right in Ward 5. One of the big problems I just recently ran for alderman in Ward 5, and I knew things were lost because one of the things about some of these inner city wards is if you're born there and you grow up there and you run for office, you got it made. People know who you are. You know, I was running against Tony Sapienza, and needless to say, he got crushed. You know, I got crushed. And I ran a campaign, not a strong campaign, but a campaign. Got signs, went door to door a few times, but you know, I mean, I didn't even have the benefit of my father growing up in that ward to fall back on. But you know, in the case of the Sapienza brothers, they grew up there. And then you know, big union guy, leftist Democrat. The other problem with Ward 5 is it's very transient. You got people moving in, people moving out. We're back down now to 500 or 600 people deciding who the alderman is or who the selectman is. People are not voting in that ward. I mean, it kind of goes in trends and cycles, you know. And one of the biggest troubles they have in Manchester with purging and updating and revising lists is Ward 5. I mean, because it is so transient. It's a tough ward. More so than 4, 3, 2, or 1.
I want to go back to SB 603. If we could. HB.
Yep.
So this is about parental rights, the ability to pull your child out of this assessment. And what's the chance of it getting the veto override that Maggie the Red Hassan put on it?
Well, there are actually 20 to 30 Democrats. Probably all of the Republicans will vote for the veto override. Depends on how many actually show up. But there are about 20 to 30 Democrats who are not really in lockstep with the party. So there are 160 Democrats, about 140 of them just do as they're told every single time. But there are maybe 20, 27, somewhere in there, who voted with us on school choice, voted with us on charter schools, HB 563, and they're not really in lockstep with the teachers' union officials and the school administrators, school superintendents. So there are some Democrats there in the House. Now, when you get to the Senate side, if it does pass the House, gets to the Senate side, it's going to be tougher because you got 24 state senators. We need to get 16 to get 2/3. We have 14 Republicans. Probably all the Republicans will vote for parental rights, and probably, unfortunately,
even Nancy Stiles. And I pick on her because she is the most Democrat-like Republican senator that we've got.
Only on education issues, on all, and maybe abortion,
taxing, Obamacare, Medicaid expansion,
guns.
If you look at her actual, well, I don't know. When you look at her actual voting record, it's always B minus, C plus.
But it's hard because they take so many voice votes. We don't get the actual vote.
Yeah, we had Paul on to talk about that. And it's rough.
On
it's rough
committee,
in the Senate.
on the education committee, we've noticed that she does really vote with the Democrats. However, if you take out the education issues, it's not that way. She really is.
But this is an education issue.
That's true. So we might lose Nancy Stiles. However, we've still got to somehow pick up 16 votes to get this passed. And it's very simple. The big lie that they're telling about this is that the feds will take these poor school districts with all these poor kids where too many parents are objecting, too many kids are refusing to take the test. And this is what we tell them. If the school administrators say, you have to take this test, the superintendents say, you have to take this test, we're telling the parents, just have your kids sit there for 2 hours.
Christmas tree it.
Don't do the test. Just don't do it.
All right, you need to call Kimberly.
Yes,
in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
I shall.
Wake her up because it's only 8:30 there. I assume she doesn't have her dogs to wake her up. Wait, her dogs sleep late. Anyway, we're gonna take a break, and Max, stick around. We could be having a couple phone calls coming in. You never know, but we're gonna call Kimberly, get an update from the Economic Summit in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where we wanted to go but couldn't because we all had other things we had to do and couldn't. I wanted to go out there bad. I have never been to Wyoming.
Work.
It would have been jobs and junk. So hang in. We will be right back. Let me turn that up because that'll help. Stay tuned.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Rock Talk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Rock Talk.
Skip's got chocolate on his fingers. Hey, welcome back to Grok Talk, brought to you by the bloggers GraniteGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Finger licking. Uh-oh. Now we got Stella calling in, too. Hang on. Let me put you line one on that. Hold on a second. Kimberly, you might have to hang on, baby. We are brought to you. I already said that part. Don't forget to check us out on Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We are on YouTube and Ustream, and we are on The Rock, nhcr.com. So Skip is bringing on our other guest, and hang on a second, I gotta say, Kimberly, just stay on the line, hun. Hun. Don't you like it when you go to the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru and they go, here's your change, hun? All right, we have Stella Morbido from The Federalist. Welcome to the show. Oh, hang on. There we go. Let's try that. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So I'm so glad we could get you on the show. Let me make a couple adjustments here. And for those of you who don't know, Stella's a senior writer at The Federalist. She's got a nice bio if you want to check it out, but I don't want to spend too much time on that because some of these articles that you write, I kind of discovered you recently, and I've been going through it, and she talks about the culture and political correctness and these... And you had this list, 10 key ways to break the mass delusion machine. So you just tell us real quick what the mass delusion machine is, and then let's go through your list.
Okay, well, it's mass delusion is just a product of political correctness, which, as you all know, is a kind of a regime, a policy, that calls on everybody to shut up about certain opinions, or just to shut up if your opinion doesn't match up with the dictates of what political correctness requires you to think and to say, and that cuts off conversation. I mean, it just basically ends up separating us as human beings and cutting off conversation, cutting off civil discourse, which is very damaging to any kind of a democracy. So I guess your key question was, how to break through it. And I guess the first thing we have to do is be aware of what's going on. And what's going on really is that our fears are being manipulated, and every human being has a primal, deep-seated fear, I believe, of being separated from others, because as social animals, we basically don't survive in separation from others. So, this kind of fear just kind of kicks in, and before you know it, everybody's kind of in a lemming-like state. But anyway, if you want to, I don't want to keep rambling on about that, but if you had a follow-up.
Oh, no, you can ramble. I want to go through these 10 points you made because I think everybody needs to read this, and that's true. We've talked about this. We talk about it every week. We talk about the PC culture. We talk about, as conservatives, as right-wing conservatives, we regularly confront this liberal wall of silence, which we borrowed the term. I lost the phrase. What did I say earlier? secular.
Oh
no!
Censorship.
It was a form of censorship. It was a blasphemy, secular blasphemy, violating that. And I don't know if I picked that up from you or somewhere else, but I read it online, and I'm like, that's exactly what it is. We used to have blasphemy laws, and people were like, well, we can't have that. That's not right. That stifles debate. And now we have secular blasphemy, and it's very real. And you have this list of 10 things that you put down, and I think people need to read it because they need to understand. So the first one is drop political correctness.
Yes. I mean, we just need to be aware that it's just basically propaganda compliance is what it's about. And it's not easy for everybody to do based on their circumstances or what kind of a job they're in, or if they work for some big corporation that would fire them if they said certain things. So obviously everybody has their own situation, but we need to be aware of what it is and what it does to us. And then I think it's really important for everybody to understand what this is doing to personal relationships. As the culture becomes more and more polarized and people are unable to think even of the other side as, actually even human, it really has a negative force effect on personal relationships. A lot of people don't even feel they can express in a very gentle way to their neighbor or classmate or coworker or whatever that that they're Christian or that they're have a different opinion on, say, the marriage issue or gender identity or whatever. And this is really dangerous stuff. So anyway, it separates us, and it leads to something called the spiral of silence that causes it gets out of control because people start thinking that their opinion is totally isolated, that there's nobody else out there who sees the world as they do, and this is a recipe for mass isolation and separation, and that leads to mass delusion. I know I'm probably rambling on a lot of kind of
these are connected because realized personal relationships are the target is number 2. Human separation is the end result of political correctness is number 3, and then fear fuels the machine. I mean, these are all things that people don't. I mean, this is what you do. This is your meat and potatoes. This the relationships, the culture. I mean, if you go to your website and read some of these articles, it's really all about that. And people think about PC as this kind of offhanded kind of way of controlling the way people behave, but they don't think about it at the depth of personal relationships. They don't think that what you just said, and it's right here in number 2. You say if you don't think your personal relationships are a target, then answer this question: how free do you feel to express your non-PC ideas to a coworker, classmate, or neighbor? You just said this, and you begin to think about how much you begin to self-limit your own speech and how deliberate this whole process is.
It is. It's an ancient divide and conquer kind of recipe. But it's happening because of social media and everything. It starts to happen on a very, very personal level, and and if we're ignorant of it, and that's my number 5 point, that allows this thought reform, which is what political correctness is about. Once you control the language is just symbols for thoughts. You start controlling thought. It's very Orwellian. You can read about that in 1984. So language, controlling the language helps, controls thoughts, and it causes people to self-censor. And that, of course, leads to what I call number 6, coerced silence, killing democracy. I mean, if we don't use free speech, we lose it. It is a use it or lose it proposition, and we need to remember that. And of course, everybody has their own limitations, their own situation in life. I mean, I don't want anybody to lose their job because they blurt out something that'll get them fired. But we need to remember these things as we navigate this nasty little maze that we've been put in through political correctness. And, it has to be resisted as best as we can. And it's the only way. And it has to be done, I think, gently and kindly on a one-on-one. That is the best way, actually, because the powers that be, or whatever you want to say, already have the, all the outlets. If you look, media, Hollywood, academia, the unions, all of these communications outlets. So, but one-on-one personal relationships, when you think about it, when you look at the end result, you go all the way down the line to the end result of this sort of thing, where you end up in, say, North Korea. You see where people, have great distrust in a society that ends up kind of a surveillance society. So anyway, anybody who hasn't looked at Václav Havel's book or essay, The Power of the Powerless, that really illuminates all of this, the fact that just one person can have just a ripple effect. The ripple effect is really the big prize of those pushing political correctness.
Absolutely. One of the things we see this manifested in is this whole Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, that one's off the rails. I was having a discussion with an individual, and the individual, I said, the whole Black Lives Matter, black people. He says, you can't say black people, you have to say African American. And my correction to him was, really now? So if you have a black person that flies to an African nation, and he's at the immigration, at the the customs place, and he has to fill out a questionnaire, and it requires his race. Does he put African American? I don't think they have that there. So there's all these misnomers and things we trip over, with all this PC speech. And I think PC speech is dangerous when it bubbles into our operation of how we govern ourselves and how we live our lives. It's terrible.
Well, it is, because then what that does is it separates us from other people, just based on, say, that, that's just one example. You'll have things like trans lives matter, as though nobody else's. It's not that as though nobody else's does. I think that what happens is we end up having to, like you said, trip over all of our language, and you'll see a lot of this in, like, the transgender protocols, the pronoun protocols that are very, very confusing for people, like the Bruce Jenner thing, and again, that's just another kind of language control thing going on. But when you dig really, really deep, what you're dealing with there is cultivating a sense of grievance that a lot of people that people develop because. I think what it comes right down to is when people feel that their dignity has been assaulted, as the history and this country, of slavery and Jim Crow and all of that. It's very easy for divide and conquer elites to try to cultivate that instead of healing. Cultivate the kind of, sense of having your dignity assaulted, and, when people don't really mean to do that. So, yeah, it creates a lot of dissension. I mean, it sows a lot of seeds of separation in society instead of a true community in which people get along and are, live in harmony. What you've got are these slogans that are really meant to cultivate separation, and it really is. It's horrible. So the thing to remember is one person just reaching out to another has a lot of power, and freedom. Really, there is a strong link between freedom and friendship. And then I go into number 9, surprising validators, and those are the people who might have non-PC views, but most people wouldn't expect them to. Like maybe a social worker, as I do, a couple, or a psychiatrist, as I do, a few, who have non-PC views, but they can't, they don't feel they can speak out. because they'll be crucified in the public square. However, they're not alone, but they feel they're alone. If they do speak out, their voice has huge impact. And anyway, you'd have to read that in my piece because that's based on something that Cass Sunstein wrote. He's the one who came up with that term, and he's, of course, he worked for the Obama administration. But he would know because he's all into this behavior modification thing. So finally, I would say that it's really important to engage and not self-cocoon and let people see the human face of conservatism. And the more they see that, the more we can fight against these noxious effects of political correctness.
Well, Stella, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us. I appreciate you squeezing us into your morning. I know you're busy.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, we're going to take a really short break. We're going to come back. Hopefully, Kimberly Morin is still on the line, and we'll have a little conversation with her. This is GrokTALK. Stay tuned.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
You want to read that?
I do.
He wants to read that.
I do.
All right.
Because it's double plus ungood.
Read it. Read it.
This is from Rick. Reminded me of what I'd seen already.
Wrote it on a Post-it note.
If Bruce Jenner goes missing, will his face only appear on a carton of half and half?
Hey, Kimberly, are you still there? Hello?
Kimberly.
Bring on the correct line.
I guess she hung up when she realized she could go back to sleep.
I'll call her back.
You can call her back, see if she wants to join us for the last quarter of the last hour.
You know what I hate about politically correct people is they've got to get offended on behalf of other folks. So they'll have a movie, all the black folks are laughing because they get it. Mm-hmm. They get the joke. But there's some politically correct person who's just got to shut off the laughter and be like, those folks, you just offended all these people. Ordinary people get it. Ordinary folks, working folks, they get the joke. They get it's just something's just a play on words.
It's like being that uptight all the time.
They're just angry.
They're perpetually aggrieved.
My grandson asked me, he was about 11 or 12. He asked me, what is political correctness? And I told him it's a bunch of people who can't mind their own business.
Busybodies.
Uh-oh, I think she's mad at us.
What?
All I'm listening.
Hey.
Or she's trying to...
Maybe she just went back to sleep. I told her if, and I do feel bad because I wasn't really expecting the call. So that's just how it was. Oh, well. Anyway.
No. Kimberly, it's Skip. We're calling you back. I'm sorry we didn't talk to you. Please give us a call or we'll call you back in a couple of minutes. We're so sorry.
There you go. On the air.
So
I want to, since we were on the subject, I'm going to turn this music off and play this thing that Skip posted from Colin Quinn. It's just riotously funny. And here you go.
But if you even mention ethnicity, people feel a little bit, your stomach feels tense. If you even mention someone's ethnicity, everyone's like, wow. If I told you a true story, this Mexican guy came up to me, whoa. Why does this guy have to be Mexican in your true story? I don't understand. You have to speak in the most idealized, pasteurized, homogenized, colorblind at all. You feel, if you notice, you're like, this guy comes up to me, could have been Mexican, I don't know, I don't care. I shouldn't have been a Central American, Hispanic, Latino. It was a man, all right? Wait a minute. I was sexist. I don't know if it was a man. Could have been a woman. It could have been LGBT. I don't know. I mean, it was a life form came up to me. You know what? Hold on. I'd like to start the story by apologizing for, obviously, I'm coming from a place of Western, entitled, unconscious, paternalistic fear of the other, and, non-heteronormative, gender-specific. I'd like to start by saying that this apology has been a learning experience for me and a teachable moment, and I think I'm going to do some soul searching, and hopefully down the line I can start a non-profit for other people that are telling stories. You've got the therapy.
And on behalf of carbon-based life forms, I'd like to apologize to all the other guys.
Yeah. You applaud, but half the country, when you tell that apology, groveling, they're like, now you're starting to understand.
So there you go.
Yeah. My response to that was, you precious snowflake, go back to mommy and daddy's basement and stay there until you can grow up, you leeching on society parasite. If you can't control your emotions, you don't deserve the title of grown-up. You should go back to your cave, sit there, and meditate on the idea of the rest of us do not exist just to make you feel happy feet.
Mike, I'm getting mail from you during the show.
Mm-hmm.
What?
He's emailing us while we're doing our thing. So anyway.
I'm doing research, especially while stuff's playing,
Well, Facebook is one of those mediums where you get to see the battleground experiment played out in all its angst.
That's true.
Case in point, there's a Facebook page called Manchester Happenings.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's totally amazing because they put events that are going on in the community on Manchester Happenings, and it's really helpful. You see, when Glendy's arriving and when they're going to build the Walmart over on John Devine, and and then all of a sudden the thread peters off into Walmart sucks. They don't pay a living wage. They go on and on and on with these socialist rantings, and it's not because it's an ideology or they're an advocate. It's because they're stupid. They believe this stuff because of what they don't have. Totally amazing.
Can I bring her on?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to
put the phone down though because it'll screw up the signal.
Self-muted and couldn't get off of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I bet
if that was happening in real life.
I know. I can think of a couple 100,000 liberals who would just love for that to be a reality. So we only got a couple minutes, but about 7 minutes. But so you're at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. You got the trip we didn't take because we could. We all wanted to go, but we couldn't.
You guys would have loved it too. It's been fabulous.
I know it's gorgeous out there. I don't know if I'm ever going to get out there, but hopefully they'll.
I love the hunting.
Yeah.
There's nothing like hunting in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is that because the deer just walk up to you? Or?
No.
They're all over the place. They might if they can.
Yeah.
They're a dime a dozen here.
Yeah,
So,
the antelopes.
Let's talk about the summit real quick. We got a couple minutes.
So basically, the summit is discussing. They had it. It's during the same weekend as the Federal Reserve has theirs every year, and so they're having it in counter to that because, of course, the Fed never talks realistically or with fiscal sanity about monetary or fiscal policy. So they had this. They want to start it. They want to start the conversation, basically, and more people, regular people, need to demand that presidential candidates even talk about this as well. Because we have a huge issue in this country. No one's addressing it. Everybody's kind of ignoring it. The Fed is afraid to deal with it and raise interest rates or whatever. There's all kinds of things that are going on, and people don't understand that the Fed's policies are why we're in as much fiscal and trouble as we're in, and why we feel it as individual people in our own pockets.
Mike? This is your wheelhouse, baby. Let's go.
Absolutely. So, yeah, as you said, they're afraid to raise interest rates because every time they even talk about it, the market wobbles. And then anything anywhere else in the world, a butterfly wing flapping in China, and it all comes crashing down. And it's, oh, my God, perhaps we can't raise interest rates after all. If they would just walk away and let the market determine the interest rates, they would settle in at a realistic level fairly quickly. unfortunately, the Fed seems to think it has to manage everything, and like any other kind of central planner, it messes it up.
Yep, no, exactly. And that's, one of the things that they were discussing this weekend. And there's actually a couple guys from British Parliament here. So
which ones?
That's I don't want to say his name wrong. One of them is Steve Baker, and the other one is Kwasi Kwarteng.
Okay.
And they're from the British Parliament at your conference, not at the Fed's conference, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're the good guys. They're on the good conference.
So who else you got there we might recognize?
Oh, who else? John Funn, Peter Schiff,
Steve Moore.
Steve Lanigan. Pardon?
Stephen Moore.
Yep, Steve Moore was here. Let me see who else. There was a rep here, Scott Garrett, who is a rep from New Jersey. Well, I don't know how he got elected in New Jersey. He's a good guy.
All the
really
Republicans live in his district. That's all of them.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah, once you get outside of the urban hellholes, it's mostly Republican.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much anywhere, right? And then, of course, Jim DeMint. He was the keynote speaker at dinner yesterday.
Oh, fabulous.
And Jeffrey Tucker is here talking about Bitcoin today and digital currency. You know him.
Yep.
Let's see. Judy Shelton. She is from Atlas Network. I had not heard of her before, but she is fabulous. She talked yesterday as well. And then there's Mark Miles, who is an economist. I'm hoping to snag an interview with him today because he explained it so simply that even a fifth grader could understand it. When you keep interest rates low, employment stays low as well because capital is cheaper than it's cheaper to invest in capital than workers. So that's what companies are doing. They'll invest in that capital.
What's his name again?
Mark Miles, and he actually lives in Massachusetts.
We're going to have to have him on the show. Is it M-Y or M-I?
It's M-A-R-C.
Yep.
M-I-L-E-S. He was really fabulous. I mean, a couple of us that are here.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of us here were like, oh my God, we have to interview him because that's what we need is people like him to be able to, he's brilliant. He has all the knowledge, right? But if he can translate that into regular terms for regular people, because, you mentioned Federal Reserve or quantitative easing to people, and they kind of gloss over like, what?
Yeah, translation's important for people like me who pay their Visa with their MasterCard.
Exactly. So that, that for me, that's one of the takeaways from this weekend is to try to get that, put that in English for people. Because, none of the candidates are talking about this, and we're first in the nation state. Let's make them talk about it.
That's a good idea. I turned you off.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rand Paul's talking about it because he and his dad have been big against the Federal Reserve and their machinations.
Yeah, well, the thing is that what they've talked about is end the Fed or audit the Fed, which is great, but people need to understand what the heck the Fed does and why it's hurting us. You can't just say, these things, even though we might all agree with it. Let's explain to people why the Fed is bad.
And regular folks are often against that end it thing. They might be in favor of a gradual decrease in power, and some people say, well, you can't do that. You got to just cut it. But you're never going to just cut it. It just seems like you're never going to have the people in power to do it. And so, sometimes you have to do like the progressives did. Take little bites until you get where you need to go and make progress where you can,
Yeah,
right.
I don't know how you end the Federal Reserve gradually, although there are schemes for getting away from it. The bottom line is we haven't had sound money since the Federal Reserve was brought into being, as evidenced by the devaluation of the dollar against gold.
We got about 20 seconds.
Under FDR. And, of course, we've especially not had it since Nixon just uncoupled gold from the dollar altogether.
Kimberly, we're going to have to cut you off because we got to go. The show's ending.
All right, awesome. I have to go down to the rest of the summit. That starts at 9 o'clock. So
all right, we look forward to all your... Yeah, we want your updates and emails and posts and some whatever you got. So thanks so much for coming on.
And we'll see you next week.
All right,
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, this is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Max Abramson, and our good friend, Mr. Olson, Mr. Richard Olson. And we're done. We'll be back next week. Have a good weekend.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Rock.